By way of introduction, my name is Brent. My wife, Tracy's upstairs. We're both wedding officiants. There's 5 officiants in my family. And each year we work with about 100 couples each over the course of a summer. And we find that every year we're answering the same questions over and over again. 3 things that a lot of couples don't know about how to actually get married in BC. You plan everything, you get a great videographer like this guy here, you get your musician. But how to actually make sure when the thing is over that you're actually legally married. So these guys let me come in here and do the deal. Over the last 30 years, I've married over 3,000 couples. The 2 things that I'd like to tell my couples to do right out the gate is, first of all, think about what you're going to say to each other, your wedding vows. And you can go to my website, heyrev.com, that's my nickname, heyrev, and get sample vows there. The second most important thing besides the vows is practice kissing. With your fiance, that's kind of important. You want to collaborate on that particular thing. Best kiss I ever saw was about 6 years ago, a couple I married in their 80s. It was real sweet, then it got weird. It was a little too long, so. Anyways, 3 things you need to know. First of all, if you haven't picked a wedding officiant yet, you need to know there's 2 types of wedding officiants in BC. There's what's called a marriage commissioner, and they're basically a marriage commissioner is a semi-retired person that is commissioned by the local municipality and the BC government to do weddings within a certain area. Some of them are really good, and if you're on a budget, they're very cost effective. And a wedding of a commissioner will cost you around $100, and they'll come and do it's a civil ceremony. You can go to the BC government website and actually read it, because they show up and they read it. It's quite nice, got some nice wording in it. And it's about 10 to 15 minutes long, again, depending on the kiss. It's up to you. And then the other side of the equation is my wife and I, we're licensed as ministers, and we're under the category of religious representatives. When I started doing this 30 years ago, there weren't a lot of ministers who were open-minded and would do weddings outside of their church or place of worship. We came along and said, hey, it's not about us, it's about you. And if you want religion, great. If you don't, that's fine too. And suddenly we were just so busy with couples who didn't want to go the civil route. They wanted something a bit more personal. And long story short, 5 of my family members got ordained as well and went through the training. And there's 5 in my family now. And the reason I say that is because something you need to consider when you're talking to wedding officiants is what's their backup plan if something goes wrong. Every year I'll get a call from someone who's at a wedding and the officiant hasn't shown up, which I can't get my head around. One year I was on my way to a wedding and my buddy called, and as the bride was going down the aisle, the officiant had a heart attack. Now he survived it, good news, but I pulled over and said, give me 10 minutes, and I called. There's actually 8 in my network, and I was able to get my buddy Brian to show up and go he was the hero that day. So you want to think about these things with a potential officiant. You want them to know they're going to do a personal job, they're going to hear your story, they're going to weave some of that story in. And a basic ceremony format, I'll finish with that in a minute, but it varies from officiant to officiant, but it's your day. So think about what you want to say to each other, how you want to say it. Most couples will do repeat after me sort of format with the wedding vows. I had one guy sing his wedding vows. It was actually awesome. He was out at UBC Rowing Club, and he just belted out this beautiful poem he'd written for his bride. We all cried. I sang to my wife when we got married, my wife Tracy. We'd been married 72 years, 36 each. That's how we look at it. So if you go to heyrev.com, there's a whole list of questions there that you might not consider asking a potential officiant, like what time will you show up? How long will you be there? What will you wear? I always show up in a suit and tie unless I'm told otherwise, because it's a formal event. And also ask the officiant, how are you with photography? How are you with kids? These are things that a lot of couples don't think about asking that you want to make sure to ask a potential officiant. Second thing is, you need someone to marry you. You also need a marriage license. And a lot of couples not sure where or how to get that. If you're in Langley, London Drugs, right over here. 2 pieces of ID, $100 in and out. I married a cowboy from Chilliwack. He said to me, hey, Rev, I got my marriage license and my condoms at the same time. I said, that's too much information. Way too much information, but good for you. And so, yeah, I'll just take the marriage license. Thank you very much. So the marriage license is an important piece of paper. When you get it, don't write on it, because you need to give it to your officiant at the rehearsal. And that's another question you want to ask a potential officiant. Will they come to the rehearsal? For me, that's just normal business, to go to the rehearsal, meet everybody, meet the family. I don't want to be just some guy in a suit showing up on the wedding day. You want to kind of get to know people, and the rehearsal's part of that process. And what I do is I get the license, and I have to go home and finish the license. I have to do another document called marriage registry for the government that you'll sign on the wedding day. And then the third thing I do is do a nice certificate for you to sign and keep and put in the fridge so you know you're married. Third thing is this, the actual ceremony. What I wish I could have had more time, I would like to kind of illustrate, but if you think of the ceremony, to keep it simple, in 3 easy steps. And part 1 is, of course, and I show up about 20 minutes before the ceremony, time to kind of mingle with people. But part 1 is getting everybody down to the front, and that's where wedding coordinators like these folks come in handy, because they help get everybody going. Come on in, don't be shy. You guys getting married? Yeah, come on in. So if you think of part 1, the processional, usually on my website I jokingly say that I've married over 3,000 couples and I've survived over 6,000 mother-in-laws. Just kidding. But moms are important, and I like to see parents seated first. And one of the questions that I ask couples is about parental status. Is anybody divorced or deceased? It helps to know that. Sometimes there's blended families. But moms are usually escorted in first. The men will usually make an entrance. And if you're a guy, if I'm your officiant, the last thing I say to my groom, very profound, I say, check your tie and check your fly. Make sure they're both up. I said that once and he was flying low. That was a Christmas wedding. So the guys go down, we make an entrance. Usually there's a song for the guys. The groom I mentioned that flew in on Sky helicopters came into the James Bond theme. It was really cool, and he busted a pose. So the men make their entrance. I've had one best man. I've had guys with 8 or 9 of their friends stand up, and we all walk down together, bust a pose. Then the ladies come down first, and if there's children in the ceremony, here's a little tip. I suggest that the kids come in last, just before the bride. 2 reasons. If you send a little flower girl or a ring bearer down first, and there's this whole empty space, just a bunch of guys, where are they going to go stand? If they come down just before the bride, then they can go to somebody who's maybe in the bridal party. Second thing is this. Kids are the awe factor. There's something that happens to the audience when these little kids come in. And it's a nice segue to the bride. It's like, the bride comes in last on her dad's arm. Last year I did a wedding, and these 2 little guys came down with the aviator glasses, the earplug, briefcase, ring security detail, and they came down to the Imperial Death March. It was really weird. It did doom, 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 and they were busting a pose. The room cracked up. The music faded out, and then these 3 beautiful little flower girls with tiaras came into Beauty and the Beast. And it was powerful. It was like jaw-dropping. I don't know who picked the music, but the transition was phenomenal. And these kids were coming down throwing their flowers, and some kids are really shy. I made the mistake once of helping a little flower girl throw her flowers. Oh, she got mad. Don't touch my flowers. Okay, sorry. But kids can do no wrong. I've only had maybe 1 or 2 bad experiences, and I usually suggest that there's someone there to take care of the child, maybe have some crackers or cookies or candies. I did a wedding for a guy, and his 3-year-old son was standing there. And during the wedding vows, this kid started to scream, "No, Daddy, no!" really set the mood. And everybody's laughing, and I kind of, the dad in me, I said, "Hey, no, it's okay." And he punched me. And he punched me down low. I don't cry at weddings. I cried that day. They're beautiful. But kids are great. So send the kids in last. And then, ladies, if you're coming in with somebody, usually I put them on the left arm. Because when you get to the front, if I'm the dad and the bride's here, usually the mom is sitting right there. So now she's between the parents. And if you're on your dad's left arm, you're a little closer to his wallet. That's important. So that's the end of part 1. And then the officiant's job, and that's why I come early. I like to meet people, kind of read the room, see how people are flowing. And the first thing that I do is just say, everybody, thanks for coming today. You're here because you're part of their story. And I want people to feel welcome right away and acknowledge those who came from a long ways away. But just immediately out the gate, the officiant should just draw people in, make them feel like participants, not just spectators. Part 2, very quickly, I'll take 5 or 6 minutes. Some officiants take 20 or 30 minutes, but I only need 5 or 6 minutes. Talk about why we're here, set the tone. I keep it light because it's already a formal event, and just bring a bit of the story into the equation. And then before they do their vows, I ask them to declare their intent. It's a legal thing. Do you stand here today to be joined in marriage? They say we do. Then we're right in the middle of the ceremony where the vows I mentioned are really important. Some couples will repeat after me if you're nervous. Some will write something and read it. And if you go to heyrev.com, that's my website, there's a dozen samples there. Mix and match. But there's also another website I wrote for my wife for our 25th anniversary called 365 Vows. And it took me 2 years to write a vow for every day of the year based on something fun and light. March 1st, Dr. Seuss's birthday, I wrote a vow for that. So there's some ideas for you. Take your time, and when you're doing the vows, sometimes the groom will look at me out of nervousness, and I'm like, I'm already married, just look at her. Because that's why we're there, though. People want to hear you say, I love you. And then after the vows, we do the rings. Can I just have you stand up? I want to use you for an illustration. I'm not going to marry you, I promise. Here's a little trick with the rings. Come here. Okay, so you're there. I'm going to hold my left hand. Put your left hand in mine. Now, you don't want to actually hold the bride's hand, because now you're crushing your fingers. Are you nervous? No. Yeah, okay. No. But you do this. I call this the slip and flip maneuver. You say, I do. You put the ring on the finger. Now you just roll his hand over and do the same. Rings are a small prop. Thank you. Give a round of applause. And I have, over 30 years, I've never, ever dropped the wedding ring. I came close. I was on a deck, and where I knew the wedding ring had been dropped from before, and the ring went through the cracks in the deck. Luckily, there was ground underneath. I did a wedding on the Fraser River, you know those docks down by South Bonson Center? And I told the couple, get a cheap little throw rug in case the rings get dropped. And I was nervous. I mean, you don't want to drop the rings. A buddy of mine actually, at the Bridges restaurant down in Granville Island, he didn't drop the rings, but the best man popped the box open, rings flew out, and one rolled right into the False Creek. They had to get a guy to come in and salvage it. So don't want to jinx you, but thinking about the rings. So there's the slip, flip, and dip maneuver. Then after the rings, I say you may now kiss the bride. Make it a good one. Make it long enough for the photographer. And you want to feel free to kiss more than once. I mean, I don't get out much. This is it for me. So I want to see a good kiss. And I did a wedding over here, and it was in French and English because they were from Quebec. And they kissed. And I said, oh, that kiss was quite bilingual. And I didn't really mean it that way. And everybody just cracked up. Did that just come out of my mouth? Yes, it was bilingual. And if you're a religious person, remember there's two kinds of kisses. There's a holy kiss and an unholy kiss. The difference between a holy kiss and an unholy kiss is about 2 minutes. Anything longer is unholy. Boom, boom. Then after you kiss, people will cheer and applaud. Part 3, we're going to go sit. We're going to sign the marriage license, which I mentioned earlier. You're going to sign a certificate that I give you, and you'll sign a registry that I submit to the government. Bit of a photo op, so we take our time. I bring 2 or 3 nice pens, but usually the couple will have a nice pen they want to sign with as well. Then when we come back, the last thing I do, and it's kind of a full circle thing, is I want to say one more time, thank you everybody for coming today. I also want to do some housekeeping. Here's what's happening next, just so people know. If there's a cocktail hour, if you don't know where the bar is, just follow the minister. just don't say that. But just kind of give some general direction. Here's what's happening next. And then the last thing I do, and I talk to the DJ or the musician, most of them know me because I've been doing it so long, but I'll say, ladies and gentlemen, I now present for the first time ever, you hear the excitement? Mr. and Mrs., and then as soon as I do that, the musician will start to play or the DJ will hit a good song. And when it comes to music, pick some fun stuff. Walk out to something really, really fun. Like the James Bond theme, that was a pretty cool one. And then as people leave, you exit to a big song. The wedding party follows you. Most couples will just take off and go away for pictures. Receiving lines are not usually, I don't see that much anymore because it really chews up the clock. And so what I'll do, and here's one last thing I'll give you to think about, is before the ceremony begins, more and more couples are asking for these guys to be put away. And I go to weddings, and you see phones in the air, laptops, iPads, and it really gets in the photographer's way. So we call it an unplugged event. And there's 3 ways to deal with that politely. One is put it in your invitations if you haven't sent them out yet. We request during ceremony time all phones and cameras be put away. I did a wedding for an undercover police officer. It wasn't a camera to be seen. Everybody just knew, no pictures. She was a gal from Edmonton. Actually, I married 2 police officers that one summer, and the one couple, before they did their vows, I read them their rights. You have the right to remain silent. But you put it in the invitations, no phones, no cameras at the wedding, or put a little sign out, please just be in the moment with us. And then sometimes the DJ or the officiant, I'll just go up and I keep it very light. You don't want to start on a negative. Put your phones away. Hey, Vike, just at the bride and groom's request, we're all going to just turn our phones off for the next 20 minutes. And seats and trays in the upright position, and we'll be starting shortly. So there's 3 ways to deal with that particular issue. And then again at the end, just to say thank you for coming and being part of this day. And we'll see you back here in 25 years for the anniversary kind of thing. So 3 things. Pick the right officiant. Get a mayor's license. You can find all that out at hayrev.com. And then the ceremony itself, think of it in those 3 easy steps. Commissioners have to stick to a particular scripted ceremony called a civil ceremony. But some of them will be flexible and let you write your own vows.